The diplomatic exchange ceremony at the Karathi embassy was meant to be straightforward. Earth and the Karathi Empire were formalizing their alliance through traditional gift exchanges and cultural liaison appointments. Human cultural specialist Owen Matthews stood in the formal reception hall, briefed on what to expect: ceremonial gifts, assignment of a Karathi cultural advisor to assist his work, standard diplomatic protocols. What he wasn't prepared for was the barely concealed hostility radiating from the assembled Karathi nobles as Ambassador Thuron made the announcement. As a gesture of goodwill and cultural exchange, we assign to you Lady Veska of House Morath, who will serve as your cultural liaison and guide during your time working with our people. Thuron's tone carried something that made Owen immediately wary, a kind of satisfaction that suggested this wasn't the honor it was being presented as. A Karathi woman stepped forward from the back of the assembly. She was shorter than most Karathi, with long pointed ears that bore scars suggesting old injuries. Her facial features carried a symmetry that Owen recognized as likely the result of some past trauma. A healed break along her jaw, slight misalignment in her eyes, scarring along her temples. By human standards, she was striking. The scars told stories of survival, the asymmetry gave her face character, and her violet eyes carried intelligence and carefully controlled anger. But by Karathi standards, based on the whispers rippling through the assembled nobles, she was clearly considered deeply flawed. Lady Veska stood with rigid dignity, her ears pressed flat against her head, a sign Owen had learned indicated distress or submission. She kept her eyes downcast, clearly expecting rejection. Ambassador Thuron continued with barely concealed malice. Lady Veska has proven difficult to place in previous assignments. She possesses a jealous temperament and has been deemed undesirable by multiple houses due to her unfortunate appearance. We offer her to you as a test of Earth's claimed values of acceptance and tolerance. The subtext was clear. They were giving Owen someone they considered worthless, expecting him to reject her and prove that human claims of valuing character over appearance were hollow. Owen felt anger rising at the obvious setup, but he kept his expression neutral and diplomatic. "Lady Veska," Owen said, stepping forward and extending his hand in the human gesture of greeting. "I'm Owen Matthews. I'm honored to have you as my cultural liaison. Your experience and knowledge will be invaluable to my work here." Veska looked up sharply, clearly surprised he'd addressed her directly. She stared at his extended hand with visible confusion, as if unsure whether this was some elaborate joke. "You accept," she said quietly, her voice hoarse as if from disuse. "Of course," Owen responded. "I was told I'd be assigned a cultural advisor with deep knowledge of Karathi society. You're here, you're qualified for the role, and I'm genuinely grateful for your assistance." He kept his hand extended, patient and calm, making clear the offer of greeting was genuine. Veska glanced at Ambassador Thuron, who was watching with barely concealed frustration. This wasn't going according to his plan. Then she looked back at Owen and slowly, carefully, took his hand in the brief gesture humans used for formal greeting. Owen noticed her hand was trembling slightly, and her eyes were searching his face for signs of mockery or disgust. He found neither. "I look forward to working with you," Owen said simply. "When would be a good time to begin discussing my research project? I have questions about Karathi social hierarchies and cultural protocols that I'm hoping you can help me understand." The hall had gone quiet. The assembled nobles were watching this interaction with expressions ranging from shock to confusion to poorly concealed anger. Ambassador Thuron recovered enough to speak. You accept Lady Veska's assignment without question, without requesting alternative options." Owen looked at him directly. "Why would I request alternatives? Lady Veska is qualified for the position. She's been assigned to assist me, and I see no reason to complicate matters by questioning the arrangement. Unless there's some issue I'm not aware of." He let the challenge hang in the air, forcing Thuron to either explicitly state that Vesca was meant as an insult, or accept that Owen had taken the assignment at face value. Thuron's jaw tightened. "No issue. Lady Vesca will serve as your cultural liaison as assigned." Over the following days, Owen worked with Vesca to establish his research protocols and navigate Kyrathi cultural complexities. She was deeply knowledgeable about Kyrathi society, insightful about political dynamics, and clearly intelligent despite years of being treated as worthless. But she was also defensive, constantly expecting rejection or mockery, interpreting neutral statements as hidden insults. "This section discusses marriage protocols," Vesca said during one research session, her voice tight. "I understand if you prefer someone more aesthetically appropriate to discuss such matters." Owen looked up from his notes, genuinely confused. "Why would your appearance affect your ability to discuss marriage protocols? You're explaining cultural practices, not modeling for a portrait." Vesca went still, staring at him. "Among my people, physical beauty is highly valued. I am considered severely flawed. My facial scarring from an accident in my youth marks me as undesirable. Most Kyrathi cannot look at me without visible discomfort." "I'm not Kyrathi," Owen pointed out. "And honestly, by human standards, you're quite striking. The scars show you survived something traumatic, which suggests strength. The asymmetry gives your face character and interest. I genuinely don't understand what your people find objectionable." Vesca's ears twitched, a sign Owen was learning indicated surprise or emotional response. You find my appearance striking. You are not disgusted." "Why would I be disgusted?" Owen asked, genuinely baffled. "Vesca, I've worked with dozens of species with wildly varying appearances. Beauty standards are completely cultural. What one species considers attractive, another might find unremarkable or even off-putting. But none of that matters for professional work." He paused. "And for what it's worth, even if I personally found someone's appearance unusual, that wouldn't affect how I treat them professionally. You're here to help me understand Kyrathi culture. Your knowledge is what matters, not how you look." Vesca was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice carried something between disbelief and cautious hope. "You truly do not care about my appearance. This is not performance to mock me later. I truly do not care about your appearance beyond basic respect for you as a person," Owen confirmed. "And I would never mock you. That would be cruel and unprofessional." Over the following weeks, Vesca began to change in ways that were subtle at first but gradually unmistakable. The defensive hostility that had characterized her early interactions softened. She began offering insights without being prompted, sharing observations about Kyrathi culture that went beyond simple answers to Owen's questions. "You were warned I have a jealous temperament," Vesca said one day, the words emerging like a confession she'd been holding back. "This is true. I become possessive of things and people I value because I have learned that anything I care about will eventually be taken from me or used against me." She looked at Owen directly. "I am telling you this because you have been kind to me, and I do not want you to be surprised when this flaw manifests." Owen considered this carefully. "Can I ask what made you develop that response? It sounds like a defense mechanism, rather than an inherent personality trait." Vesca was quiet, then began speaking in a voice that suggested she was sharing something painful. "When I was young, before my accident, I was considered beautiful by Kyrathi standards. I had friends, social standing, prospects for advantageous marriage. Then I was injured. The details do not matter, and my face was scarred. The reconstructive procedures available could not fully restore symmetry." Her ears pressed flat against her head. "Overnight, I went from valued to worthless. My friends abandoned me, claiming association with someone so physically flawed would damage their own prospects. My betrothed broke our engagement, stating publicly that he could not bear to look at me. My own family treated me as an embarrassment to be hidden." She paused, her voice growing harder. "So yes, I became jealous and possessive. because I learned that anything I cared about would be taken from me the moment my value was questioned. I learned to guard fiercely the few things I was allowed to keep, because letting go meant losing everything. Owen felt anger on her behalf, cold and controlled but absolute. Your people judged you entirely on appearance and discarded you when you no longer met their beauty standards. That's not a flaw in you, that's a flaw in them. Veska stared at him. You are angry on my behalf. Why? Because what happened to you was unjust, Owen said simply. You didn't choose to be injured. Your character, intelligence, and worth as a person didn't change. But your entire society decided you were worthless based purely on appearance. That's cruel and wrong, and yes, it makes me angry. He paused. Your jealous temperament isn't a personality flaw, it's a reasonable response to years of mistreatment. You guard what you value because you've learned that others will take it from you without cause. That's survival, not character failure. Veska's careful, emotional control cracked. She turned away quickly, but Owen saw tears forming in her violet eyes. You are the first person in 7 years to suggest that my response was reasonable rather than proof of my unworthiness, she said quietly. The first to be angry on my behalf, rather than disgusted by my appearance or frustrated by my defensive behavior. Then your people are fools, Owen responded. Veska, in the time we've worked together, you've demonstrated extensive knowledge, sharp analytical skills, and genuine insight into cultural dynamics. You're an excellent cultural liaison, and I'm grateful to have you assigned to this project. He paused. Your appearance is irrelevant to your professional value, and your defensive behavior makes complete sense given how you've been treated. Anyone would develop protective mechanisms after years of being judged and discarded for something beyond their control. Over the following months, as word spread through the Kyrathi diplomatic community that the human had not only accepted Lady Veska's assignment, but treated her with genuine respect and professional courtesy, reactions were mixed. Some nobles who'd participated in her assignment as a test were frustrated that their attempt to humiliate both Veska and prove human hypocrisy had backfired. Others began quietly reassessing their treatment of her, uncomfortable with having their cruelty reflected back through Owen's matter-of-fact acceptance. Ambassador Thuron approached Owen privately during a diplomatic function. You have made quite the statement by maintaining Lady Veska's assignment, Thuron said, his tone careful. Many expected you to request a replacement once you understood her. Limitations. What limitations? Owen asked bluntly. She's knowledgeable, professional, and excellent at her job. The only limitation I've encountered is that she was initially defensive due to years of mistreatment by people like you. Thuron's jaw tightened. Her appearance is irrelevant to her professional capabilities, Owen interrupted. Ambassador, I don't know if this was intended as some kind of test or joke, but assigning me Lady Veska was the best decision your embassy made. She's been invaluable to my research, and I consider myself fortunate to have her expertise available. He paused, his voice growing colder. What I find disturbing is that your society decided someone intelligent, capable, and professionally excellent was worthless because she has scars. That says far more about Kyrathi values than it does about Lady Veska's worth. When Owen's research project concluded and he prepared to return to Earth, Veska approached him privately. You changed how I see myself, she told him quietly. For 7 years I believed what my people told me, that I was ugly, flawed, unworthy of respect or kindness. I built walls to protect myself from further rejection, became jealous and possessive, because I learned that caring about anything meant losing it. She paused, her violet eyes meeting his directly. But you treated me as if I had value. Not despite my appearance or my defensive behavior, but simply because I am a person deserving of basic respect. You were angry on my behalf when I was mistreated. You valued my knowledge and skills without qualification. Her voice grew softer. You gave me back something I thought I had lost forever, the belief that I deserve to be treated with dignity, that my worth is not determined by others' beauty standards, that my defensive responses were reasonable reactions to unreasonable treatment rather than proof of my unworthiness. Owen took her hand in gentle gesture. Veska, you always deserved dignity and respect. Your people's failure to provide it was their moral failing, not yours. I just treated you the way everyone should be treated, with basic human decency. That basic human decency was revolutionary to someone who had spent 7 years being treated as worthless, Veska responded. You accepted me without hesitation when I was given to you as a burden. You saw value where my own people saw only flaws. That gift, being seen and valued, changed everything. Some acts of acceptance are calculated, designed to prove points or demonstrate virtue. Some are conditional, offered only when the recipient meets certain standards. And some are simple and absolute, treating people with dignity because they deserve dignity, regardless of appearance, reputation, or others' judgments. Owen Matthews accepted Lady Veska without hesitation, not because he was trying to prove anything, but because she was qualified for the role and deserved professional respect. That her own people considered her worthless was their failure, not hers. What was meant as an